A man was so enraged over a missing bag of candy, he plunged a knife into a woman multiple times on Halloween. Maria Adams and Lidwell Peoples got into an argument over a missing bag of Halloween candy. Maria Adams threw a plate at Peoples' head, which struck him above the eye and caused a gash. Peoples then grabbed a knife and stabbed her multiple times, killing her. He was charged with attempted murder and aggravated domestic battery. On Halloween night, 1974, in Deer Park, Texas, a father laced his son's pixie stick with cyanide with the intent to kill. The father, Ronald OBrien, had fallen deeply into debt. He purchased potassium cyanide, sprinkled it inside 5 pixie stick straws, and crudely stapled them all shut, then handed them out to his son, daughter, and 3 other neighborhood kids, hoping to avoid suspicion. After trick-or-treating, O'Brien's 11-year-old son, Timothy, apparently at his father's urging, swallowed the entire contents of the pixie stick, and then complained about it tasting bitter. He soon began to vomit uncontrollably and was dead before reaching the hospital. O'Brien was found guilty of murder and on March 31st, 1984, shortly after midnight, was executed by lethal injection. He was dubbed the Candyman. One Halloween in the Bronx, teenagers threw eggs at a car. Jackson and his girlfriend were picking up her 9-year-old son from a child's party. Jackson had turned 21, and he was a quiet young man and usually avoided going out on Halloween because he thought it was too dangerous. 3 teenagers struck their car. Jackson stopped, got out of the vehicle, and an argument began between the teens and Jackson. Jackson had sat back down in the passenger seat when one of the teenagers pulled out a gun and shot Jackson in the head, killing him. 7-year-old Tony Bagley was wearing a skeleton costume and trick-or-treating with his sister, mother, and aunt early on Halloween night in 1994 on the north side of Las Vegas. At 6:15 p.m., a man wearing a hooded sweatsuit ran into the street and opened fire on the Bagley family. Witnesses told the investigators that the gunman had jumped into a waiting car and left the area, with the car headlights off. The only description of the shooter was that he was about 5 foot 8 inches, African-American man who was wearing a dark-colored jogging suit. The killer vanished into the night, leaving a cold trail behind him. Tony, a second grader, was shot in the head. His 10-year-old sister, his mother, and aunt, who asked to remain nameless, were also sprayed with the gunfire. In an odd twist, 3.5 years later, after Tony was shot, his father, Anthony Bagley, in April 1998, was charged and convicted of an unrelated murder, also committed on a street. Today, Anthony Bagley sits in a Nevada state prison, serving out 2 consecutive life terms. Anthony has never talked to the police about whether he knew who shot his son, and Tony's murder remains unsolved today. On a Halloween night in 2008, convicted drug dealer Quintin Patrick heard a knock on his door. A paranoid crack dealer attacked the boy, who was accompanied by his stepfather and 2 brothers, believing it was a rival drug dealer coming to kill him over a drug feud. Fearing he was about to be killed, Patrick unloaded 30 bullets through the door into the family, killing TJ, hitting his parent and 1 other brother, and missing the other. While the others survived their wounds, TJ died in the hospital. Although he'd previously served separate prison sentences for stabbing 1 woman and murdering another, John Dee White was paroled and became a pastor of a small Michigan church. Living in the trailer park, he became romantically involved with female residents a few trailers down and would frequently babysit the woman's 3-year-old grandson. On Halloween night, 2012, while the 3-year-old boy was in the trailer, White knocked out the boy's mother with a rubber mallet and strangled her to death with a plastic zip tie. He stuffed her in a garbage bag and dumped her in the woods. Then he returned to the trailer and dressed up the boy in a Halloween costume, whereupon the boy's father came by to pick him up. After being arrested for murder, White told the police his crime was part of a lingering fantasy to have sex with a corpse. But he'd forgot whether or not he completed the act. Jeremy Bryan Jones was a drifter and self-proclaimed ladies' man who was raised in Oklahoma but somehow wound up in Georgia. He eventually befriended a woman who allowed him to stay with her at her home. On Halloween night, 2012, after making up the woman's 12-year-old son and friend in makeup so they'd resemble the rock group Kiss, Jones went to a popular tavern in Douglasville, Georgia, where he then killed Tina Mayberry. She was dressed up as Betty Boop and got stabbed by Jones while she was going to her car. That was 7 Halloween murders. Of course there were murders on Halloween. I mean, hello, it's Halloween, right? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had fun researching it, actually. It was very interesting. And don't forget, you can click the top over there, and you will go to my last video, and the bottom, you will go to the next video, if it is up. If you got here on time, and I don't have it up yet, yay for you! Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and remember, there's always someone or something watching you.